Hello and welcome back. So, in this lecture, we are going to see a simple example of using the RelU to find out whether a person will default on the loan or not. But before this, I would like to tell you that I'm not going to explain each and every line of this machine learning model, but uh, because this particular playlist is not for telling you about the machine learning models or giving you the examples of machine learning models and explaining it. This is all about to give you the reference of a machine learning model, right? Whatever concept we are using, I'm just giving you the reference of that machine learning model, of that concept in the machine learning model, that how you can use it. So here we are going to see an example of RelU. So RelU, you have already understood that RelU is used when you have to be sure whether something will happen or not. And sometimes you need to use the combination of sigmoid and RelU. Okay. Why you need to do that? Because, for example, in this case, we are taking the example of whether a person will default on a loan or not. In this case, we have to find out the likelihood of someone to be defaulting on a loan or not. So the value is between 0 to 1. The value could be between 0 to 1, not exactly 0 or not exactly 1. Someone could default, someone could not default. It may be that there is a possibility that someone will default on it. So what is that possibility? 30%, 40%. So something between 0 to 1, which is a probability distribution. Somewhere between 0 to 1, we have to find out, right? So if we have to find out something between 0 to 1, then in that case, we have to use the sigmoid. But at the same time, we need to have some kind of hidden layer, some kind of hidden formula, which need to find out whether the particular data point, whatever I'm getting, is useful to consider it to be in the part of the machine learning model or not, right? So that place we need to use the ReLU, right? We need to have another layer which is known as the ReLU. So that's what we have done here. So in this case, we you can see like we have imported these libraries, pandas and sklearn. If you want to understand about these libraries, like what does, in fact, these packages, like what does model selection do, what does keras, what does layers do, what does matrices do, right? What are their use? Then in that case, you can simply copy them and put it on the Gemini or any other uh, LLM where you can find the details. Like you can ask it that just give me the details on this particular library and this particular class model selection, keras.models, and you will be able to understand there, right? Because if it was a class on explaining the machine learning model, then I could have done this thing. But this is not that. This is not the purpose of my playlist, right? In future, if I create a playlist for that, then I will be explaining all these things. And then we have the data set. You have to create a data set with the real world data where you will be providing age, income, education, and the loan default. So these are the three variables, and the fourth is the dependent variable, which is the final outcome, which is the loan default. What age and what income and what education person have if he defaults on a loan. So I will need a lot of data. So you can prepare that data on yours by yourself, right? And after preparing that data, you will be using that data to train and test as well. So whenever we have any set of data, we have to train our model based on that data, but we have to test our model as well. The best source to test our model is the data that you have got itself. So you can split the data into two parts. One part is the training part, which is the 80% of the total data, and the other part is the 20% of the data, right? So you train your model on the 80% of the data, and after training your model, you test your model against that 20% of the data that you left in your training set, in your complete data set. So if your model is able to predict it correctly on the remaining 20% of the data which is with you, then in that case, you can decide what is the accuracy of your model. If it is not able to perform well against that 20% of the data, then in that case, you train it more, right? So here we have given like test size is 0.2, which means 20% will be the total size of the data available, which will be used for the testing the testing your model, right? And then we have uh, a sequential model we are creating. Sequential means we have different layers. So we are just creating a sequential layer from here so that we can create different layers. So first layer we are creating a hidden layer where we are using the ReLU, right? So we are not using the ReLU to decide the final output. because final output is not like someone will default or not. It is like some what is the likelihood, right? In this model, we are more interested in the likelihood of whether the person will be defaulting on a loan or not, right? So that's why RelU must need to be used in between as a hidden layer so that it can filter out that data which is not useful to decide whether a person will default or not. So that's where the RelU activation unit has been used. Again, I'm telling you that you can simply type like what does sequential method do. Simply you can do what does sequential method do. Okay, this is not the one. What does sequential method do in ML, machine learning? ML, okay, neural network code or ML. So you can simply find it out. What does it do? So you can find out like what is the meaning of sequential method and what does it do, right? You can also ask one question that explain me in a layman terms as what is the purpose and how is it useful for neural network model. So it will explain you in the layman terms, right? So it is explaining you imagining building a house, right? You start with the foundation, then put on the wall. So it will create an imagination around your understanding about this function that what does this function actually do. It's not going into the technical details, but it is trying to match the technicality with the real world scenario, right? What was the objective of the function? That's what it is going to explain you because every function has an objective. Why it was written, what is the purpose of the function, that we must need to know. Otherwise, we will not be able to use it correctly and at the correct place. So this is explaining you when you ask it to explain in the layman terms that what I have to do, then in that case, it is simply giving you these details, right? And what is the usefulness for this function that all you can see here, right? So you can come here again. We need to come back. Okay, this is the one. And let's see what we are doing here. So after that, we are creating the layers. One is ReLU, the other one is the activation layer sigmoid, right? So one activation layer, hidden layer is ReLU, the other activation layer is the sigmoid. This activation layer will be basically used to finally give you the last output, right? Sigmoid, because we have to find out the likelihood. You know that the sigmoid gives a likelihood of values between 0 to 1. But in case of ReLU, you only get 0 or 1. On certain inputs, it will give you 1. On certain inputs, it will give you 0. So RelU is in between the layers to filter out some of the outputs which are not useful. And sigmoid is there to fulfill the correct purpose, but to find out the likelihood of something to happen, like loan default to happen, right? And then you can see like what does model.compile do. You can again go to the Gemini or any other model for that matter, and you can simply ask like what does this function do, explain me in details or explain in layman terms. So that question will give you your answer. You will get the answer from the LLM. Most of the things will be clarified to you, right? So I'm not going to explain by my own because it's already available if you ask from the LLM, and this is not the course for explaining this code and each and every line. I'm not training you on pandas, sklearn, right? TensorFlows. I'm not going to explain you these things because this the purpose of this course is not to explain you these libraries. For these libraries, different courses are there. I will also have some courses in future, but yeah, as of now, I'm just telling you how you can understand this piece of code, what it is doing against what you have understood in the ReLU and the Sigmoid, right? So basic focus is on ReLU in this example because I just had to tell you that where the ReLU method is used. Okay, now comes the compilation method and then comes the fit method. Method is basically the one which is doing the regression, trying to find out the best equation so that you can predict the output like loan default against the real world values, right? So here model.fit, you can simply ask like what does model.fit do to the LLM again, and you will be able to understand what does fit do, right? So just let me show you it. What does model.fit method do in ML? Explain in layman terms. Okay, so this gives you all the information. Imagine you are teaching a friend a new game. You wouldn't just throw them into a competition right away, would you know? First, you will explain the rules, show them some example, and maybe even practice a few rounds together. So this will explain you from a layman's perspective that what does fit do. It will explain you everything. So just go there, use any LLM, ask these kind of questions. If you want to utilize more of AI in this present era and you don't want to left behind by learning it on your own, collecting the information from various sources, right? So work on your intelligence, but yeah, collect the information, don't take much pain, right? If you're learning something, just take a reference of few things using the AI, right? But yeah, keep working on your intelligence, because without intelligence you cannot ask this question even, right? You need to keep that intelligence with you. You need to groom up that intelligence with you. Keep grooming that intelligence with you, which can create new matter, new material. But you should not use AI to crush your intelligence. You should have the intelligence to ask the correct question. Without that, you cannot use the AI, because if someone who doesn't know C language, if you put him anything about language, some person doesn't know anything about language, you ask him to go there and ask the AI that teach me every aspect of the C, C++, right? What does he do? How will he able to find it out that what I have to read, what I have to ask? Until he knows that what does programming language contains. It has the concept of compilation, it has the concept of interpretation, it has the concept of, right, it has the concept of building the exes. So all these things, until he knows, until he has the basics, what kind of questions he will ask. So don't crush your intelligence, but yeah, use the AI as a tool. AI should be a tool in your mind. AI should be a tool, not a replacement of your mind, not a replacement of your intelligence. Don't make it as a replacement of your intelligence. Keep working on your intelligence, right? So anyways, let's come back together here. And its method, you can understand what does it do. And then after training, after having the real formula, after having a formula, after the regression, we are having a formula, and based on that formula we are going to use a real world data, real world input. In this real world input, we are providing the age, income, and education, these things. And then we are predicting on this new data, right? And here we have given like, if prediction is probability is 0 point greater than 0.5, then we are saying that there is a probability of this person, very much likelihood of this person to default on the loan, right? And last three lines are just the uh, you know, uh, just the code to understand what is the accuracy of the model, right? So you can understand this accuracy score function as well in the same way that I have explained to you. So this is what you can do. And I will say that you must need to learn these things for the neural network, as I am telling you, with the help of other LLM models, right? Large language models you can use, and you can simply pass them the data, and you can simply pass them the data means information what you need. That information, that question you can pass having the piece of code, and you can simply ask it like what does it do and how it is useful. What does compile method do, right? Why we need the compilation method? What is optimizer? What are matrices? What is loss function? All these things. What is loss in the compile method? Explain me in layman terms. It will explain you everything. And with the help of these things, if you understand 2 to 3 projects, right? These simple, hardly 100 lines of codes, if you are able to understand, then you will be able to understand more of the things that are coming in your way. And you don't need to learn each and every aspect of these libraries. If you are a fresher, if you are learning new things, then in that case, this is really important for you to understand each and every library. But yes, if you are some person who is just into a project and he is leading a team, then in that case, you just need to know about these methods, and you need to be smart enough to understand what does a ML program looks like, right? So that if some person is writing a code in your project, some resource is writing, some engineer is writing the code, then in that case, you should be able to understand, you should be able to cross question why you have used it, why you should not use it, right? So that's how you should prepare yourself. But yeah, if you are a fresher learning the new things, then in that case, you need to go through Pandas library, you need to go through sklearn libraries, give some hands-on exercises to yourself, and then learn it. But yeah, for those who are more into the designing, more into the um, just just suggesting, or you can say consulting on the AI models, AI-based models, learning models, then in that case, this will be fine for you to just have a piece of code, and you have the concept like RelU and Sigmoid, and then you can explain each and every line with the help of an LLM. And then you will be able to understand that what exactly a code for ML looks like. So I think this is sufficient, and we'll meet in the next video. I will provide this piece of code in the comment section, and I will pin the comment. So with this, I would like to say have a nice day.